Hi, everyone. We are back for part 2. So excited about this. We've got the rock stars on panel, and they're going to share some serious nuggets of wealth with us today. And we have Lee joining us as well. Nice to have you, Lee.
Nice to have you. Thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Very excited. So Anthony and Mike, we're going to ask you guys some questions about how the continued open rate is going further in, but I have been trailing after you, trying to do what you're doing, and I have everyone in our office excited. So thanks for part 1. In part 2, we've got some pretty exciting content that we're going to be covering. So everyone that attended part 1, we covered some great aspects on why do email marketing. Here in part 2, we're going to talk about some great strategies for email sending, distribution, how often we should do it, and what works best. So I'm going to turn it over to the rock stars. If you guys want to share what you've prepared, I'm got my paper here ready to take some notes.
Prepared. See, when you get my age, you can get away with all kinds of stuff because you know, it just people feel sorry. So let me share one thing, and Anthony's already proven this. No matter how you do everything going forward, it comes down to one thing. It's called content. If you're not sending out what people want to see, they're not going to open it. You'll go to spam eventually. What Anthony sends out is much different than what I send out, but he's reached the point where people are reaching out saying, can you include this on your list? That's as good as it gets, right? I don't care about open rates. That right there says everything. So you've got, that's the whole secret sauce. And it changes over time. So and there's not one formula, and Lee and Anthony, if you disagree with me, please share. It's trial and trial and error and to find out what they're looking for. I think mine's a little bit easier because I'm a second home market. So and they're not here most of the year. So I just share the happenings out and around with Mike 2022 style. And we show up at different places and we film it. In mine are all videos. Anyone that knows me is in a meeting with me. We talk videos all the time. But that's the whole key. No matter what platform you use, no matter what template you use, no matter your frequency, none of that matters if it's not content your clients want to see. Does that make sense, everyone?
Does.
Absolutely.
Mike, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, it's so much more about giving people what they want as opposed to telling them about you. We all do it. We all talk about the homes we've sold and the people we've helped. And isn't that what we're supposed to do, right? It's kind of like, wow, I sold another house. You know, the dentist doesn't say, I just filled another cavity. I mean, he doesn't do
so
that,
good.
right? Finding things that people need to know about, want to know about, showing up needed before they know they need you, being respectful of their space, being respectful of their inbox. We're talking about email marketing is like really important. For me, the open rate is one thing, but the people who disconnect from me when I send them an email, that's a bigger thing to me, right? I don't want to be an intrusion when they see my weekend bucket list. We want to give them some information that they need. Sure, we want to sprinkle a little real estate in there, but for us, that's not the goal, right? It's build a little community and give them something that they might not know that they need, and then we provide it to them.
I have to say that was one of my biggest takeaways with the first session, was that real estate is the side topic. The primary topic is lifestyle, things to do, things that matter, things that would impress the user. And I think that for a lot of us realtors is so key to remember. Like you said, they expect we're selling houses. That's our job definition. So how do we make ourselves relevant in another way? Lee, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think the other thing, at its core is too many people get really wrapped up in the tactics and like, what platform should I use? And all that stuff is important, but no question that executing, and similar to what Mike said, just iterating on that, like, oh, wow. I mean, all these platforms generally give you details around what did people click on? What did they look at? And so just getting started is the key. And I think a lot of times people come in these webinars and they are like, what software should I use? What am I going to do this? I get somebody to do it for me. Should I do it? And the reality of it is you just need to go. Like, all of these guys started at one point. At one point, Anthony did not have a bucket list. And at one point, Mike was not sending out a newsletter. So just executing on it, is one thing. You can always change platforms. And I love session one. I was blown away by session one. I think you guys did a great job, and I'm hopeful that I can add to that. But I think this is such great content you guys are doing. And again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so just by way of recapping one before we get into two, the takeaway was simplicity and consistency. And you guys reiterated that over and over and over again. You've got to do it consistently, and you don't want to overcomplicate it because you want it to be something you can do every week to reach out. So now getting into our second session, we're going to talk a little more about your strategies for sending. And like you said, distribution, the frequency, the cadence, and what processes you find work best. So again, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
In the beginning, we're taught to send out a weekly newsletter. And quite a few months ago, maybe it was over a year ago, it was during the pandemic, Tom Ferry came to Orlando. I've been a Tom Ferry student for over 10 years now. And so he said, everybody in this room that's sending out a weekly newsletter, raise your hand. So many of us raised our hand. And he looked at all of us and says, now you're going to send out 2 per week. I thought, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. But I went back with content that we were already creating for other things, because it all comes back to content. If there's not content, something to put in there, you don't do a newsletter. It's that simple. And so we grew to 2 newsletters a week. And then something recently happened. The market changed. Remember, I call the crazy 18 months. And so all of a sudden, my buyers and sellers are saying, we're going to fall off a cliff. 2008 all over again. Mortgage rates are going to go to 30%. Bankruptcies are going to go through the roof. And so I decided that I wanted to do a weekly market update instead of my monthly. I'd pull the data weekly. It was more high level on a weekly basis. But I was trying to paint a picture that wasn't going to happen. And I didn't want that video diluted with my other newsletters. So we started a third one, which had huge open rates with that one. But ultimately, we got to where I believe we've arrived at the new market. We kind of are very close to an equilibrium in this part of Florida. Still a little bit slower, but not as much as it was. So I stopped the third email because it wasn't going to bring any more value for me to keep sending the same thing out week after week. And now I'm focused back on the 2 every Tuesday morning and every Friday morning. My clients get the newsletters.
And Tuesday, Friday, is there a method to that?
No, it made it easier for me. I'll be brutally honest about everything. And now I've even got it better. So simple is best for me. I've tried other databases for newsletters, and you can make them fancy, and I respect that. I'm not bright enough to keep everything working the right way, so mine go out of Follow Up Boss. Everything I do in my life is in Follow Up Boss. So here's what's even nice now. I create the 2 new templates on Sunday, and I actually schedule them all on Sunday. So my Tuesday newsletters get scheduled on Sunday. My Friday newsletters get scheduled on Friday, on Sunday. So now I don't have to think again until the next week when I'm getting new content to film for the videos.
Talk about simplicity and consistency. I'm loving this. Anthony, what do you do?
We send our weekend bucket list out every Friday morning. And as I shared in our last session, on Monday, the people who opened it get another piece of content with something that is a little bit more real estate centric, simple things run from our Ylopo search site, homes with pools, new listings in Tampa, new listings in a given community. They just get something else from us. Sometimes they're KCM blog posts, especially lately. Those seem to be very well received by folks. There's a lot of good, valuable objective information in those KCM blog posts. So we send them one of those. And then the rest of it, Tuesday to Thursday, is really personal. It's as personal as we could possibly make it to people who either respond to us or open both of them. That, in my mind, I'm trying to make, again, their inbox and our being there comfortable. So I don't want it to look like it is a bulk kind of a thing. Clearly, the weekend bucket list is bulk. Anybody who opens it knows it, right? I don't think very many people think because I put their name at the beginning of the email, I typed out each email to everybody. You know, I'm not trying to fool anybody. But the fact of the matter is, Tuesday to Thursday, we try to be as unintrusive but as informational as we can be about the things that we're supposed to be doing.
Amazing. So you're scheduled too. You have a plan, you do it the same day every week, you use the same templates, it's simplified and consistent. Lee, what about you?
So I'm in a little different situation that I want to explain so it's really clear. We do have a company newsletter for our company, but my company serves agents, not consumers. But I work with a ton of people that do consistent, mostly weekly newsletters. I also have previously been in an operational role where we did a monthly newsletter. So you may hear me speak in a few different scenarios. I want to be sure that's not confusing for anyone, because for better or worse, I do have a lot of different use cases and a lot of different scenarios. And I am generally a fan more of the MailChimp style, like a newsletter. For what we do, I absolutely love and recommend also the text style that these guys do. Like, there's no right way. Obviously, with the MailChimp, you can do more of an HTML, a styled newsletter, and some people prefer that. I also like the integration with Follow Up Boss because all of the data pulls through, whether it is a tag or the stage, last communications even in there. There's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do. Maybe when we get into logistics, I'll talk about a few pros and cons about how that connects. But the consistency is key because A, the consumer sees you consistently, but B, to both of these guys' points, for yourself, you have accountability, right? Like, oh crap, tomorrow's Friday, I got to get this together, or oh no, this is coming. I haven't scheduled it yet. And I'm a big fan of Mike mentioned the scheduling. I know Anthony and those guys also schedule it as well. That way it's done. You're not scrambling at the last minute to do that. But for me, 100% the consistency, I would say weekly. Again, for me, a little more the MailChimp platform, just because that's kind of where I've fallen over the years. It does show you all the same clicks and opens in Follow Up Boss. So you are able to still build a smart list on recent activity or last marketing email activity. So you can use all those same things. But, and again, back to what they said earlier about content as well. Empathy is the greatest lead conversion. Understanding what do people want from you, what's interesting to them, not, hey, I sold another house, or yeah, you can put in, hey, new listing. You can filter in some of that, but that's not the key. In fact, when I was in production, when I sent out an email newsletter, it was things to do in the Atlanta area, tips to decorate your house for the holidays, whatever those things, were. I've been out of production for 10 years now. I still have people reply to those emails and they literally say like, hey, I know you don't do this anymore, but do you know somebody in Tampa? I'm like, I do. Let me get you with Anthony. So they work. Yeah. Who do I know in Tampa?
I got to tell on Lee for a second. These are unscripted. It's open mic. It's always dangerous putting an open mic in front of me. So I am going to tell on Lee. Most of what I've learned at Follow Up Boss has been shadowing him in the webinars that he holds. I'm going to be really candid. He has taught me so much and he's unaware of that. So why I kind of generated sending it out a Follow Up Boss. One day, Lee taught me about smart lists, not me, but he taught a lot of people. We're in the webinars. He's a great educator. So he taught me about smart lists. And then I'm somewhere else. We're in something and he taught me about email templates. And one day I was sitting around at night, had nothing better to do. And I thought, wow, if I put those two together, I can do my newsletter and follow-up boss. Because I've had other HTML based, and for me, it was, I want to say not more work, but it was more complicated, right? So what I like, if something bounces in my client record and follow-up boss, I see that, right? I get everything about a particular client. Anyone that opens it, I click on it, I see everyone that opened it in the list. Everyone that bounced, I click on it, I see what bounced. So it comes back to simplicity, but I'm going to blame Lee for my solution that's hugely effective in terms of open rate, but he was unaware until now the kind of impact he's had on what we do here at Team Rennick.
That's awesome. I appreciate that, Mike.
Yeah, amazing. So one question we had was, what is KCM for Anthony? I did put it in the chat. It's Keeping Current Matters, which is a great provider of news info, blog posts, content that is relevant and very objective. So the link is there. Do any of you send them back to our blog post on our branded sites? Have you ever tried that? And has that had any power?
I do.
100%.
One of the things that we do Tuesday to Thursday, it's almost like a little video game. It's a hot list video game. I sit at my computer, who opened up the weekend bucket list, who has a Ylopo stars link, who has looked at properties in the last 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, 15 days. And I try to come up with 15 or 20 people, right? That I can share a blog post with, I can do a bomb video for, I can invite them into our ecosystem, right? Because they have done a handful of things that we kind of want them to do. And that changes every week, right? So those hot lists, it's literally a game of changing the criteria to determine who I'm going to communicate to on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And having a stars link is a huge thing for me, because now I can see the properties that they've looked at. I can send them a push listing like one that they've seen. I can send them the simple one, any of the past 5 that you've looked at interest you, right? Now they know I'm paying attention. And that has been, the smart list game is where it's all about, I think.
So quick question on that, guys. If for all the users here, you're sending out the newsletter, how do you see who's opened it? Is it a tag that's applied? Does it come in? Do you filter it into a smart list? How do you find those folks?
Simple. Follow-up boss, for us, follow-up boss, the batch mail reporting.
Yeah, admin reporting batch emails.
Fabulous.
It breaks it into like a column.
Yep.
So if you're not a follow boss user, I'll break it down. Or if you are a follow boss user, I'll break it down. It basically, that email will have its own kind of line item, and it'll say sent, I think received maybe, because obviously some of them are bad email addresses. So it'll give you that count. It'll give you the open count, the click count, unsubscribes, and maybe something else. But what's really cool is that any number in follow boss that's blue is a clickable link. And so typically those are all going to be blue links. So you can click to see who clicked, you can click to see who opened, and actually brings you to all of them. And so to Anthony's point, you want to follow up with the people that opened it. Click on that. You've now got a list. It's not even a smart list. It's just a list of all the people that opened it. You hit the button again, you hit the batch email, and you send them the property or the, properties with pools or whatever. So Anthony, I know for a fact, Anthony does it sitting in his chair. He does it drinking coffee. He just one hand, click, send them content out the door, go sell another house.
Livia, can I jump back to the comment you meant about driving him back to our blogs and stuff like that? I'd like to just show something really quick, if I may. Here's a template for what's going to go out on Friday. This is our Friday newsletter. It's nothing more than a logo with 2 videos, but look at under each one. Click here to share your thoughts. My email is very simple. It's two videos, but then every video comes in here in the blog. So let's say it's this one here, and this one hasn't gone out yet. So, but I set this up in our branded website so they can come in and make comments, so we can have a thread about this. So everything we do, I was taught early on, we should drive them back to our website.
Bring them back.
That's really cool engagement. I know Anthony does the same. His Tampa Bay bucket list is also a blog post. And I want to lean into that too, Mike. I'm glad you came back. I had just made a note about that. I work with somebody who has done, I wish it was my idea, a really brilliant idea where they send 3 things every week. The first thing is something to do in their area. Second thing is a Ylopo blog post. The third thing is some sort of like helpful tip or whatever. That's it, period. I mean, obviously there's a quick signature that's like, hey, we can help you with this, or here's a link to our site. But I mean, if you think about it with the Ylopo blog post, you've got a beautiful image already. You've got really good content. You're getting them back on the site so they either generate a priority alert. If you have Follow Boss and Pixel installed, you can see that they're going other places. I mean, it's pretty simple, but yes, agreed. Driving them back to your site, read more,
Keep them
watch
net-
this video, search homes with pools, whatever that is. I mean, that's the key. And then you're kind of feeding the machine, you know?
Yeah, it feeds into what I always say, Ylopo is our surveillance system. So the more we can bring them back, the more surveillance we have, the more we understand how to meet them where they are, which is huge. So we do have a question that someone asked in the question and answer. I believe it's keeping current matters. It's from David. Can it be used in Canada? Do any of us know the answer to that?
I use their data all the time. I don't remember seeing anything that addresses the Canadian market.
Okay,
do
I
not
pull their
know.
charts for my market updates all the time.
okay. So it would probably be best to reach out to Keeping Current Matters, David, and find out if they can do that, but that would be amazing if they have something. Okay, so before we get into how to segment the database, we have a really good question here. We briefly touched on it in our first webinar, but I want to have Mike, Anthony, and Lee, I'd love you to weigh in. What about subject lines to get them to open? Adam wants to know. What is a good subject line?
The crazier, the better, in my opinion. For example, I'm terrible at names, so I can't remember the name of the company, but a competitor to YouTube was moving in here for their headquarters to Longboat Key. And so the title on the newsletter and the video was YouTube relocating to Longboat Key. Really? Question mark. And then that thing went through the roof. So you do different kind of things. Like another one could have been, I am 100% opposed to buyer's agreement. That's just my opinion. So I titled something like buyer's agreement, not with Mike. Let me tell you why. See, it's got to be catchy in my mind. It's got to be honest. It's got to be relevant, but it's got to be crazy.
Anthony?
You know, ours, honestly, it's super simple. Tampa Bay Weekend Bucket List for the one that goes out every Friday, and Tampa Bay Weekend Bucket List Labor Day edition, right? Mother's Day edition, right? So those actually do get more open rate. But the one thing on the Monday to Thursday emails, people like to be recognized, right? People like to be given the opportunity to give their opinion, asking a question in the subject line, asking for a favor. Hey, I'm doing some research. Can you ... right? And then ask them a question. They like being recognized for what they know. And they certainly like giving their opinion. So getting them engaged, and we get a lot of response from those. I wouldn't say a lot, but we do get an open rate that is favorable. And they don't disengage from us when we're asking them their opinions.
Do you guys feel it's too kitschy or too overdone to put the first name in the subject line? You know how you can do first name and then a subject line?
I do. Mine includes the first name and the subject line.
Okay, so it works. It makes them, it's their favorite word, right? So why not throw it out there? Lee, I'd love your weigh in on this because we talked about it in episode 1, but what do you use as subject lines?
Yeah, so for us as a company, we actually use, I don't know if I quite call it a current event. It's just kind of like, if it's a July 4th holiday, it's something tied to July 4th. I don't know if I go quite as far as to say it's funny, but it's just kind of fun and interesting is the focus. But I think the answer, I love that these guys have different strategies. I mean, Anthony says Tampa Bay Weekend Bucket List, period. Like always. I think you have some emojis in there though, Anthony.
We do. Occasionally we have emojis. This past week, they had the car show down at the Tampa Convention Center. and there was a car in there, and
They're
Like-
subtle though, but they're a little different every time for
Yeah.
Anthony. And for Mike, yeah, I totally agree. I love merge codes. The idea that you can say, hey, Bob, I found this, that might be interesting to you, or you wouldn't do it in a newsletter, but obviously you can do that with sources or things like that as well. That's a little more like action plan conversion level stuff. We vary ours, but it always comes from me. So I think ours is pretty clear that it is what it is. But I wish there was a magical answer. I wish I could say, oh, being consistent does whatever. I think for Anthony, we have a friend that does it as well. It's the same subject every week. It feels kind of comforting. Like I literally open Anthony's. I don't even live in Tampa. I literally open it every week because it's just interesting to see what he's doing and what that. And I'm not on Mike's. I guess I need to be. Mike, you should add me.
Yes.
Now, Olivia,
that's gonna
let me
happen.
add too that
Please do.
I've just started digging back into Phil Jones and exactly what to say. Simple things like really with a question mark or really with an exclamation point the next day, right? Or this may not be for you.
This might not be for you.
But
So I have to share, you guys both told me when I said, okay, I'm going to start this, what did I do? And you said, start with this may not be for you. But so that was my subject line. First name, this may not be for you, but backed by popular demand is what I used. And I got responses to that saying, is for me, and can you add my daughter? And I had another one say, oh, thank you. No, definitely for me. I did want to get this. They thought I was asking permission and I was psyched. So that one worked really well in our market. I don't think I could do it every week.
Right.
you have to change it up or they're going to know that you're just like,
It's
I
automated.
don't want to
yeah.
seem like, I don't want to be that guy. I know when I look at my email and we all get hundreds of them every day. I mean, who's not trying to sell a realtor a shiny object? We get them all the time, right? I know the subject lines that get my attention and the ones that I just delete immediately, right?
Yep.
I never have ever done RE : like I sent them an email. Never. I would never do that because I delete them all. If I look at the subject. and
Oh,
I-
right. The pretend
sender.
response, like you're
Exactly.
responding
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
people see through that.
I
wanna-
always say that too. Don't try to, if you trick me into getting here, that's probably not a good start to our relationship,
It turns you off immediately.
Yeah.
Yep. Very true. Now, Mike, I'm going to throw this question at you that just came in, and then we'll get into how to segment. But when we talked the first time, you were talking about what's considered a good open rate and then what you guys are getting. So Adam wanted to know, what is considered a good open rate that we should all be looking for? Is 30% the barometer? I think you said 19. Is that correct?
With a question like that, what I do is I go to my best friend for advice. And he or she, whatever they tend to be, are usually accurate. And the last name of my best friend is Google. So it's either Mr. Google or Mrs. Google and whatever you want. So Google says for real estate newsletters, a good open rate is 19%. It's through Google that I learned my real estate partner is still a millennial. So I'm very, I've leveraged living daylights out of that. So I get all kinds of good stuff off of Google. But if you think about that, it's probably one of the better experts we can go out to. It's not always perfect. But so let's say it's 23% instead of 19%, who cares? It's the magnitude of the number. So of course we want to beat that number if at all possible. So that was a challenge. 19 seems low, but if you have a high distribution, that's still a lot of people. If you think about it, think of how many emails you delete a day without reading. I enjoy that process actually. So to go through delete, 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 delete. Sometimes that's the most productive activity I've had in the entire day. Just deleting those doggone emails I don't want to see. And so 19 is what they say. So we always shoot to beat that. We got really lucky. Here's something I think is important. This won't happen overnight. It will not happen overnight. You've got to cultivate and generate your tribe, if I could use that word, social media term, your followers. And there were some times that we would miss an email, and I would get some phone calls from friends of mine. Mike, your email would go out. God, gone it, I forgot to send that. See, instead of scheduling them on Sunday, I do them the night before, and with a long day. So To make a long story short, we want to keep this simple. You know, we can go into detail on who's opening mine, who's not. I get a high open rate. I like that. So I stop there. I don't measure any further. And I know a lot of people teach you can go down and deeper and all of that, but we've got other things we do too. This is just one process to support us in terms of selling real estate. One more comment, then I'll shut up. For those that may be watching this, it can be overwhelming. Here's my challenge. Someone's asking, how do I handle unsubscribes? I respect it. Don't send another one. It's that simple. I respect people that unsubscribe. Now, for someone that wants to get started, just do it. Make a promise that you're going to send one email a week. Maybe film a video. Take your smartphone. If it's an Android phone, it's going to be even better than an iPhone, but that's okay. Take your phone. I know there's iPhone people on here. So take your smartphone and make a video. Just like, I like to joke around. I like to have fun. Make a video and just share something that's going on right now that's important. One thing that's exciting, I'm going to buy. I own no more gasoline cars after tomorrow. They're all gone. They're all electric. I need long extension cords for my vehicles. I go traveling now. So that could be a video, right? Just something about ourselves, something kind of kooky, something kind of corny, but make one a week and go ahead and send that out to your database. Get started that simple. You can build over time. We used to do really elaborate emails, all kinds of fancy stuff and columns. I got really cool when I learned how in one of the email programs how to do three columns on one sheet. I was really proud of myself. My open rates aren't any better than they are now with follow-up loss. So make it simple, make a promise. Anthony started like I did. He did his first email, and it just over time, it's consistency. And that's what Lee teaches in some of the webinars I've been in. Just get started.
Yeah, if I can add, I know we need to keep moving, but I want to mention real quick, same on the open rate. For one, MailChimp does the same. It does it by industry. So when you sign up, you say what industry you're in, and it actually gives you a comparison. I assume they updated a little bit over time. And then the other piece of this, it seems obvious, but I think it's worth saying, depends on the where has your database come from? Have you been running 1,000 Facebook ads and you have 10,000 people who you've never talked to? Is it largely Sphere? So I think that's a big factor just to consider, because I could easily finagle getting a 2% open rate or getting a 90% open rate if I wanted to send it to certain people. So just keep that context in mind. If you've been feeding a database for years and never emailed it, probably gonna have a lot of unsubscribes. You may have a low open rate because you might be going to spam or maybe not even getting there or going to promotions or whatever. But again, like we said at the beginning, that stuff is important. You should use it to iterate and go, but don't stress, don't not do it because you're trying to figure out how you can get a 22% open rate,
Got it. So he's saying, I'm hearing you say it doesn't matter, be consistent, know who your database is. And I think a big thing is you want to continue growing your database. You want to have content to share with your database. Don't get too caught up in the weeds of who's opening or not opening, but try to continually better the open rate. And one of the questions was ideas for the newsletter every week. Ashley, if you haven't watched session 1, definitely watch that because they talk about where to get these ideas. And it's phenomenal. It's simple, it's actionable, and it's just like, it's changed my whole world over here and what I'm throwing out. So definitely rewatch episode 1. And if you want to share any other, Anthony, go on.
Now, Lee just mentioned what I think is a key word to kind of answer Ashley's question. Keeping things in context is really important. Knowing the message that you want to get out and who you want to attract is super important, because content without context is just noise. And that's what we're trying to stay away from. So it's to me, I don't want to be noisy, right? The content, think about it, look around and see what people in your community are interested in, where the questions are, what the questions are that aren't being answered, and bring that back to them with content in context. And then it's not noise, it's relevant. And all of us, Mike and I, are trying to be relevant within a very noisy space. Like Mike said, I mean, I delete 150 emails a day, right? And it is a game for me. I mean, so having the context of what it is that you want to say is think about it and be thoughtful about it. It makes a world of difference.
So in line with all of this, I think the next point in what we wanted to cover is really applicable. How do we segment our database? What software, what templates, what automations? How do we do it? We know what to share. We know when to share it. Now, how do you pick who you're sending it to?
But make it simple. I think everything comes back to that. So before Ylopo, I was with another marketing company, and they taught top of funnel would get a certain kind of email, and middle of funnel would get another, bottom of funnel. I don't have time to make all those different kind of newsletter kind of stuff. So I take the database, and so every new lead that comes in gets a tag, and that's one of the smart lists to get the email. When it grows to a number that I think it's big enough, some of my chopping them up, we've got 2,000, some of them have 150. It just, when I get to a point, I start a new tag. The key is to break them up into smaller groups so that, and I don't fully understand it. They say there'll be a higher open rate. To me, the person who receives it determines whether it's going to be opened or not, but break it into smaller groups. We now have 11 groups. One of my newest groups are Ylopo agents that are subscribing to my newsletter. That's up to over 200 people. So, and I like that. That number is growing. It's still growing. And so they get the, by the way, they get the first one. Theirs goes out at 4 o'clock every Tuesday morning and every Friday morning, because I know realtors are up really early going to work. So it's just, I would argue, don't make it difficult. Just chop it up. I use a word that I made up called kerchunking. Kerchunk your database into small bite-sized morsels and send it out.
Do you do it by tag, by stage? How do you?
Mine has a tag, different tags, because it's a smart list, all generated by tags.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Anthony?
Ours is super simple. Every Ylopo lead, every lead that is generated through the Ylopo system, new, that comes into our database through an automation that I'm lucky to be part of the Amplified Solutions group that Lee runs, and he helped me do this. Every single Ylopo lead gets a tag that says Tampa Bay weekend bucket list.
Awesome.
That simple. And then everyone on that list gets the email on Friday.
And then the ones that open on Monday get the follow-up email.
Correct. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, it's those people. And again, it's a game. I'm trying to find 30 people that I can have a greater relationship with, have more conversation with, who I can get them, so who I can build a little trust with. So it's 12,000 down to 7,500, down to 80, down to 30.
Love it.
That's
Lee?
such a good, you gotta frame that. That's the way to say it.
I know.
That's
It's
the way
like,
to say it. I want a huge list that gets me to this number of people. I mean, it's a basic sales funnel, but we should think about it more that way. Yeah, and I agree. I do the same thing. I'm a fan of the tag system. So for our company internally, personally, we just have a tag. Sometimes if you come into a certain lead flow, meaning you were giving you something for free, if you sign up for a course or something that we offer for free, you're automatically added to our email list, but that's done via a tag as soon as they come in, but it's differentiated by source or by type or whatever. I think the short answer though, for all of us, we're all essentially sending it to everyone in some sense. We're not, oh, I'm only going to do this group or that group, or only people who have done this. But I think, we're ultimately trying to do it in bulk. Whether you just don't send to people who unsubscribe, or you're a little more specific with the tag type of thing. Another thing, kind of speaking to a little more MailChimp, but also in general, again, in MailChimp, you can create a number of, it's called a segment. So you have to sync your entire Follow Up Boss database, which people don't like because they charge you by contact amount. But within that, you can say, like, I advise a lot of people to use a stage in Follow Up Boss that is like contact, do not market to, or do not market to, or do not email, or whatever you want to call it. But what we'll do is we go in MailChimp and then exclude that stage. So we say, send to everybody who's got this tag, but not if they're in the stage, do not market to. if you have vendors, if you have agents, if you have certain people to that effect. And then it's funny, I debated about even mentioning this, but since Mike kind of touched on it, I'll say it. Although, and Mike, I know you're not doing it for recruiting. Separate recruiting list. You know, if you're growing a team, tag people recruiting newsletter. And maybe a newsletter for recruiting isn't we're not going to get into that today, but that could be another segmentation, right? My past clients, all the people I want to recruit. I mean, honestly, I know some people that do this and I encourage it for their own team internally. Send a weekly newsletter to your team. This is what we're doing. Don't forget, we have a meeting on Wednesday. Oh, by the way, here's a link to this cool video I watched last week or whatever. So I think, again, the segments hinge a lot on your business, but I think I love the example that really Anthony and Mike both gave of the big funnel, using it to get down to who are the 10 to 30 people I need to circle up with.
Get down to people that want
I got to share something to follow up what Lisa says, send it to my team. I have one other team member, but it brings up the story. We're driving up Longboat Key and they're tearing down some beautiful trees here. And Eric looks at me, he says, "What's going on?" Right then I realize he's not watching my video. So if I sent him the newsletter, he wouldn't be opening. So I've never let him forget that point. But see, Lee brings up a good point. The recruiting I understand, but even like my past clients, they don't live here year round, so they get the same newsletter, right? Now this won't work for everyone. But again, I want to be simple. I create one newsletter for Tuesday, a different one for Friday. And it goes to the same list. Anyone that unsubscribes, respect it. One of the most frustrating things for me is when I unsubscribe from an email list someone put me on, like advertising, and I don't quit getting them. So I make a vow that I respect those kind of folks. It doesn't mean they may not buy real estate from me. They just don't want that newsletter. It's that simple.
Now, when you're sending it out, do you send it from your email? Do you send it from your personal email so they know it's coming from you? Do you have a newsletter? How do you set that up so you don't get marked as spam?
So I cheat. It's very simple. I hooked up SendGrid on the back end. So it appears that it's coming from mike@teamrennick.com, but it's actually going out through the SendGrid servers, very powerful commercial servers. And I'm a geek. So I had to purchase 2 IP addresses just because I could. And so they're dedicated to me. So the email reputation, which when I looked the other day, it was at 98%. That reputation can only be impacted by me. In other words, SendGrid has a lot of shared areas that everyone can use those IP addresses. And if there's some spam that gets out, they get degraded a little bit. The thing about the reputation, the email reputation, it determines, like a big one is Yahoo blocks a lot of emails coming in. So if you have a higher reputation, the email provider, this is getting really geeky, but the email provider will let more go. And one of the things when I moved over to SendGrid, my broker, who's an attorney, said, "Mike, what did you do? Your emails don't end up in my spam anymore." He says, "I'll never tell. That's a top secret." But all I did is I started using those 2 dedicated IP addresses. They got a very high reputation. And because of that, if it goes into spam, your clients aren't going to see it and they're not going to open it. So we want to try to get it in the inbox as much as possible. And that's one way in terms of the dedicated IP addresses and that kind of stuff.
So technically, so you use Follow Up Boss, but when you're batch emailing, you send it through SendGrid from a Follow Up Boss template.
Right. It's all you do is you bring up your smart list, you click on all the people, you bring up the template at the bottom. And since I have SendGrid integrated with Follow Up Boss, a great thing that Follow Up Boss does that, it goes out automatically through the SendGrid server.
Okay. Anthony, what do you use?
We use SendGrid as well. We do the exact same thing.
Same thing.
Yep.
So it's like a masked email address that shows it's coming from you, but it protects your credibility. And
In
Lee,
Follow Up Boss, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go on.
In Follow Up Boss for our team of 3, when we send out the blast email, we can designate whether it comes from a person or the assigned agent. So in our instance, it gets broken down virtually into thirds, just with the click of a button in Follow Up Boss.
It goes out as the assigned agent. And
Mhm.
Lee, you're using MailChimp. Does MailChimp do the same as SendGrid to protect your email?
It does somewhat, yes, as far as the protection of the email goes. It's that same kind of via. I don't even know the
Yep.
proper term for it, to be honest with you, but like when Mike sends his, it'll see deep in there, you'll be able to see somewhere it says sent via SendGrid API as, Mike Rennick as teamrennick.com or whatever. Something I want to be really clear about, because this is really confusing for people, and rightfully so. SendGrid offers multiple products, but there are two primary products on the email side. One is more of that newsletter HTML style thing, and that does, to the best of my knowledge, doesn't even work with Follow Up Boss anyway. If it does, that's a new development. What these guys are talking about, it's called, I just dropped a link into it, although apparently I can't type. There's some typos in there. It's
And you do a
called
newsletter, Lee? You do a newsletter? You have
Yeah.
trouble typing? I like
Well,
that.
I
That's good.
Grammarly. I have a Chrome extension. Actually, I have somebody that does the newsletter for me. That's the key.
I was waiting.
There's
That's what
the
I
key.
wanted you to say. I, do
I
that
have a
already.
newsletter, yes, but it magically happens every week. But so it's called SendGrid API, and it's the $15 version. Don't buy the fancy, expensive, I can do a pretty HTML one if you're using Follow Up Boss, because I don't think they even work.
It doesn't work that way.
You
They
need the
don't.
$15, and it gives you some crazy, like 100,000 emails a month, I think is maybe the count for the cheapest version. But you guys said it, and I'm just going to reiterate how it works. It literally just kind of lays on top or behind Follow Up Boss. So it improves your reputation, and it raises your send count so that you can send as many as you want via Follow Up Boss. And to Anthony's point, you click a button and it comes from the assigned agent. So if you're branding the team or yourself, you can send it as you. If you check the box, then it will say, do you want to send from the assigned agent? Which in Anthony's case makes sense, because Eric's leads don't need to get an email from Anthony and be like, wait, who's this guy? I've been talking to Eric. So it makes good sense. And then great question here in the chat. So Follow Up Boss itself actually uses SendGrid. It just gets you to a certain lead count, which I believe is 10,000 per user per day. And they've upped that recently. So if you're sending less than 10,000 emails, you don't even need to add on SendGrid now. That limit used to be 1,000. Now it's 10,000. So Follow Up Boss does this for you up to about 10,000 people. If you're sending more than that, then you'll need to do this add-on. There's a little bit through, you have to verify your domain. It takes a little bit of work setting up. But back, I guess, to my purpose of using MailChimp, it does improve that. MailChimp does not, one of the cons of MailChimp, it does not allow you to easily click a button and send from assigned agent. Our workaround, when we've done this with people, MailChimp makes it super easy to click a button and replicate the campaign. And you can save segments. And so we create segment that's like agent B email list. And so you do have to replicate it and then change the settings just a little bit. But it is possible to go in and send it out from each agent. But it's definitely more work than tick a box and Follow Up Boss and hit send, and then SendGrid takes over.
So just to clarify for people to understand, using Follow Up Boss and SendGrid allows you to send a basic email. It's not going to be that pretty HTML templated that you can do through MailChimp. MailChimp will allow you to have more of the branded newsletter, the wow template, but it's not going to be as seamless as doing a standard email through Follow Up Boss.
That's an excellent summary.
Both will work. It's just a different approach.
Yeah.
But so the question comes into, because of the complexity, does the HTML capability add to the open rate? And that's why we used to spend a lot of time. We tried two different. MailChimp was one. We tried Constant Contact also. And years ago, before Ylopo, the marketing company I was working with, and Anthony and I come from the same spot, they didn't have the capability. So I went back to what we taught by them, but I can do it in Follow Up Boss. I mean, I looked last night in our open rate. If I click on this right now, it's 46%.
Wow.
And I don't have all the bells and whistles. See, I think my clients want to see the videos. They don't care. I don't even know they see the titles. It comes from me, and they want to keep up with what's happening down here when they're not in town. You know, and so when we talk about happenings, we stay away from controversial things, but we look at what are, you know, some of the things going on, like they're building these terrible roundabouts. Let me use that adjective, or popping up here nightly, and we don't know how to drive them, and they're building the granddaddy of all of them, and it's going to open soon. So once a month, we put the drone in the air, and I narrate the update with the roundabout. That's something people are they're interested in. And just recently, they changed the lane format, and so everyone's writing back and says, "Mike, I just got used to the old one." So it's, you know, you find the kind of things that work, but you know, we're all extremely busy. So I want agents to encourage, find something that works for them, but find something simple. You can add a lot of other stuff, but if it adds values and improves your open rate, then that might be worth investing the time.
Yeah,
If not, see what works.
I think this is also, you know, ask 10 people, get 11 answers type of thing. Like, the reality of it is, if you want it to look like a newsletter, then something like a MailChimp is going to, I mean, they know it's a newsletter. They know I didn't send them a personal note. If I was starting a real estate team tomorrow, I would probably go the SendGrid route. I would probably go the simple, here's a couple of links. Hey, I was just thinking about you. Those sort of things. Like, that's more the thing. I've been doing this newsletter for ever, and it's in MailChimp, and it looks like a newsletter. Nobody's like, oh, Lee sent me this message. It is a template that we send every week that looks like a template.
Newsletter. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's Maria just asked, and I think that's the answer, Maria. It's when you receive emails from someone and you can tell it's a pre-branded, really pretty looking template. That's going to be what you can do in MailChimp. When you get an email, can you guys pull up one of your email templates and share, just so we can see the difference?
I'm happy to share mine if you want.
Okay, good. Yeah, because it looks like it's just an email, a normal typed email to someone.
Did I share it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so this is last week's weekend bucket list. And we use the same template every week. And this is the link. If I click on that and open that link, that will go to the
blog post.
The blog post that is on our site right here. Right? So that weekend bucket list, they're on our website right now. They're on our Ylopo website looking at the things that are going on.
That's awesome.
Right? And then beyond that, there's a little bit of real estate information. And then through the wisdom that is Ylopo, new listings in various communities, open houses in various communities, and a link to our property valuation site. And that's it.
And for those things using Ylopo, if you open up, so if you go to an incognito window and do a search on your search site for, let's say, all open houses or all new listings, it's going to give you a link that you can embed into this template. And so you won't have to rerun it every time.
Right.
It's going to be there and it will update it itself. So it simplifies, it looks like you're updating it every time, but it simplifies your life.
Yeah. Permalinks are your friend. Always.
We never change these links down here, ever.
Because they auto update from an incognito window. Yep. And the value of that, everyone, is each user on your site, when they log in, if they already have cookies or information stored, it opens it up with their contact info. So that's why you want to run it from an incognito window, not from just your generic browser.
And Livia, taking it one step forward, when I'm playing my little video games while I'm watching my baseball game on Tuesday night, I can tell, one, who opened up the weekend bucket list. Two, I can tell who clicked on this link or that link or the other link, because in the upper right-hand corner of Follow Up Boss, it tells me exactly what they looked at. Right? So then I can become more intentional about the things that I either ask them or that we share with them, trying to get that large Friday email list down to maybe 15 or 20 people that we might be able to have conversations with in a given week.
It's amazing. It's
If-
genius, you
if-
guys, genius.
If
I
we
wanna
think
hop
about
in-
everything that we do in terms of trying to reach our clients and stuff, email marketing is almost free, right? We're paying for Follow Up Boss. If you want to add on MailChimp, I get that. There's a cost for that. But we're using assets we've already created and we're sending it out, and it's keeping us in front of the clients. What it is, it's really keeping that conversation going with the clients. And way back in the beginning, like hundreds of years ago, they taught email marketing, right? And we kind of got away from that. And when I say we, I mean a lot of agents. It's really time to get back to that, and stay in touch. It's about touching the clients. It's about showing how you're different than your competitors out there. And it's a great tool. Even if 10% open it, that number is a number that wouldn't have gotten anything.
Yeah, that's opening it.
That-
That's
Right, those
seeing,
are your people.
yeah.
Those are your people. That's what we're doing this for, right? To find our people out of the big number.
Mhm.
I just wanted to mention really quick too, our open rate is comparable. It's a very focused database though. Like the people on it are people that are looking for what we're sending. But I just looked, I have, sadly, my very last one was the first one that's ever been under 50% in the last
Wow.
2 years. But to that, so I just wanted to say that in the sense that SendGrid, MailChimp, that's not the issue. It's the content and the database that results in your open rate. We don't have to go back
Consistency,
into that, but it's comparable.
Simplicity, yep, consistency, simplicity, and not leading with real estate, leading with what the consumer wants to know, leading more. And then Anthony did say now he needs a permalink class. I hear you. I'm going to just throw out there for anyone listening, for these little how-tos, join us in office hours every Wednesday. You get so much information. You can ask these questions live. We actually show you how to do it. It's amazing. You can be on your computer as we're walking you through. So for
That's where I learned how to do it.
right? It's
Right.
incredible how to segment a database, why to use tags, how to do the permalink. We can show you all of that in office hours. All right, so we are almost at the top of the hour, so I want to hand the floor over to you guys for closing thoughts. Anything you want to share?
No,
I
Lee-
saw
We just said something that really like struck me. His open rate's 50%, but Lee, how many people do you send that email to? Because you're sending it to professionals.
Yeah, it's very focused. I think it's about 350, maybe
Okay.
approaching 4, but it's like, I mean, I probably know
That's
those.
350 people that you get in a room every week to read your stuff, right? My list is about 12,000, give or take. If I get a 10% open rate, that's 1,200 people that I have in a room. Where the hell else am I going to get 1,200 people to sit down and take advantage of something that I created for them? It's almost impossible.
It's profound, really.
I saw a comment in the chat session about a new agent who just joined us. There's also on Monday and Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, Matt is another new Ylopo coach. I'm a new Ylopo coach. We host webinars that you can go deeper because there's less people attending. Get with your CSM. They have access to our calendar, and you don't have to be a new Ylopo user. Anybody's welcome. It's at 1 o'clock Eastern time on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Fridays. And your CSM can get you hooked up to that, but they can also get you on Matt's calendar or my calendar for one-on-one coaching. And there's absolutely no charge for Ylopo users for that. We can walk you through all of this.
Amazing. And Lee, I'll hand it over to you. Any last closing thoughts?
Yeah, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer with this, but there's one really important thing I want to say. And if it's okay, I have a video on Follow Up Boss MailChimp that I can drop in the chat.
Yes,
If that's
please.
okay. One of the downsides right now that I want to just mention really clearly, MailChimp does not currently work with spouses in Follow Up Boss. It's very much on the radar. I remind them politely very frequently that that's very important. But if you're using the relationships feature in Follow Up Boss and you're thinking of adding MailChimp right now, there are a couple of workarounds, but it does not work seamlessly with that. Whereas what these guys do with SendGrid,
It will work.
same thing, checkbox. Do you want to send to all people on this contact? But I guess ultimately my closing thoughts are, number one, just do it. Number two, you're not going to break any of these systems. Like, play around with it. Send a single email to a spouse or a friend or your cousin or whatever. Like none of us got to doing this consistently weekly with good content, with high open rates and all that. The first time we did it, the first week we did it, the first year. I mean, I've been sending an email newsletter out since I was in production starting in 2006. So like it works, but just be smart about it, be empathetic with the content and the audience, and
And
do it.
start. Just
go.
do it. I have to thank you guys. So you all know that you're my idols, and I always try to implement anything you guys put out there. So after the first session, I immediately started, told my whole team we're doing it. I just can't thank you enough for giving us this hour to pick your brains and to share your successes and the how-tos. This is huge. I hope anyone that hasn't seen session 1 goes back and watches it in the chat. Incredible. I mean, sit down with a pen and paper. And for this session, you guys have just broken it down into such actionable steps that I just can't wait. I'm switching from my MailChimp. I'm going to be honest. I'm jumping onto the SendGrid. I just
Do
like
it. Clarity is key. Clarity
Yep.
is key, right?
Yep, that's what I'm thinking. I'm going simple. So thank you all so much. We're right at the top of the hour. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Olivia.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Mike,
Thanks,
Lee,
everyone.
You guys
Yeah,
are
good to
awesome.
see you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.